Hi and welcome to History's a Blast. We are at Buckeye Furnace State Historic Site in southeastern Ohio near the Hocking Hills region, and we're in the Hanging Rock Iron District, and there's several iron furnace ruins down here. This one is a special one. We had quite an adventure getting here. As the dash cam footage shows, torrential rains have caused some flash flooding, but we're here, and we're going to go into the visitor center, which is run by volunteers. So let's come along and see what we get into. This is our official greeter. No treats though. If you don't give her treats, she goes away. Oh well. Hi, we're following the official greeter.
Oh yeah, that's Shelly. She's the official Buckeye Furnace dog.
Hi Shelly. So this is the general store from the.
It's twin. There's like a couple of electric four-wheelers parked out there.
Little tricycles. So they got a gift shop here. I guess local crafts. Nice old stove. Mystic.
About each building, and Leo Petroglyphs.
Sit here playing checkers by the old woodlawn stove. Wow. So you were telling us why they call them pigs.
Yeah, the only reason it was called pig iron is because if you go up to the furnace there, on the right-hand side of the furnace is where they tapped out the iron. Mm-hmm. And they had dug in the sandy bottom, they had dug their pattern in there, and they said it looked like a mama pig feeding her babies, and that's why it's called pig iron.
That's really interesting.
Yeah,
that's a great
so
story.
You know, it's just a standard. You know, oh, it looks like okay, pig iron. This is a map of the site. You can see where cabins were in different places. The site employed about 100 men, and of course they were here with their families if they were married, and so they all had cabins.
Were there a lot of families?
Well, 100 men.
And most of them had families?
Most of them had families. Well,
500 people, so.
Yeah. And here's a picture that's actually from this site. And you see a young man there. Looks like a wagon full of ore. And they used oxen to pull it because it was so heavy. And that would be the dirt road would have been right out here.
Oh.
And there's several pictures here from different sites around, and basically, like I said, every community had the same structures, same buildings, and they got paid in script, which was only good at the company store. And they made between 65 cents and $1 a day, depending on what their job was. And the most expensive thing in the store, what was the most expensive thing in the store?
Tobacco?
Tea. Tea was $1 a pound.
Wow.
Pork was a penny a pound. Beef was 3 cents a pound.
Well, pork in Ohio ought to be pretty cheap.
Well, at that point in time. Yeah. And at the point in time, at the end of all this, when all the trees and everything were gone, and we went from kind of being a production type economy, with all the land cleared, they started farming more and raising animals. So it's a lot of cattle, a lot of pigs, all that kind of stuff. Today, I think there's actually probably more cattle than anything else being raised.
I know you were looking too.
Yeah, I wanted to.
Wow. This is a great. The stuff that's in here is fascinating. It's.
Yeah, that black thing there is a portable pantry from a chuck wagon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, coffee on the one side, there's a coffee grinder. On the other side is a flour sifter. In the middle, those little round tubes in the middle are spices.
Jeez.
The 2 long tubes, baking powder, baking soda.
Oh man.
So
Fascinating history. Extremely knowledgeable volunteers who live here and take care of the place as well as provide all kinds of historical background. This is the scale where they weighed the raw materials that went into the furnace. Fairbanks. Buckeye Furnace was the second charcoal-fueled iron furnace to be built along Raccoon Creek. It was constructed by Thomas Price in 1851, financed by a company under the name of Buckeye Furnace Company. In its early years, during a 42-week blast period, Buckeye Furnace produced an average of 7.3 tons of iron daily. Later construction increased the height of the stone stack and raised the output to 12 tons a day. That's pretty good for a charcoal furnace. Preserved covered bridge here. You can come and look at the old wooden truss, wooden deck. Fascinating. Here's a storyboard, talks about the communities. They were isolated, tried to be as self-sufficient as they could, but here produce came in by road from Chillicothe. Although the working families kept gardens and maybe some personal livestock for food and milk. Completely reconstructed structures. This area of the furnace complex is known as the stockyard, where raw materials were delivered, stockpiled, sorted, and graded. And you really don't find stuff like this anywhere else that I know of. There's two historical charcoal furnace complexes that are run as historical sites in Pennsylvania. Cornwall and Lebanon County. I think both of them are in Lebanon County. Cornwall is a state historic site, and of course the Hopewell Furnace National Historic Site. Both of them are remarkable in their own rights, but neither one of them actually has a completely reconstructed stockyard and head house for the furnace like this. This is just amazing. Here's a good diagram of the furnace itself. What I call the head house, they call the bridge loft. With a hot blast oven that heated the blast. And the boilers, there's the tunnel head at the top of the furnace stack, the engine house, and the casting house. Neat. Let's go in. Iron furnaces like the one here at Buckeye, referred to as blast furnaces. This term applied because air was compressed and blown or blasted into the crucible of a furnace, raising the temperature and thus speeding up the iron making process. Both methods, a small steam engine was employed that operated several blower tubs or crude bellows that pushed the compressed air into the furnace's crucible. The engine received its power from steam generated by boilers at the top of the furnace. They're right here, still here. It used spent furnace heat from the top of the furnace to convert the water to steam, or slag. Stockpiled iron ore, then charcoal and limestone were measured out in proper amounts of each. Materials were alternately dumped into the furnace through the tunnel head. Layers of iron ore, charcoal, limestone were loaded into the furnace until the stack was filled. Pure charcoal filled the lower part of the furnace. After it was ignited, the furnace temperature began to rise, and gradually the iron ore and limestone began making its way down into the crucible. With the furnace up to temperature, the iron making process was ready. The blast air was initiated and the iron making process would be underway. Here's information on charging the furnace. About 12 hours after the process began, the molten iron was drawn from the furnace in the casting house. On the lower level, and additional layers of iron ore, charcoal, and limestone were added as the layers inside the furnace continued to drop down as they heated up and became molten. The rigid schedule of charging and casting continued for about 9 months out of each year, during which time the furnace could not be allowed to cool. And at the end of each production season, the furnace was cleaned out and completely relined with fire. But there you go. This is just fabulous. Now we're going to go downstairs. A steam engine located on the building on the hill beside the furnace provided the power to compress the air pumped into the furnace, or the blast. The engine turned a flywheel that operated 2 large blowing tubs. pistons inside the blowing tubs forced air into a pipe that carried air into the upper level of the furnace. The air was where the air was heated by those hot gases that came from the furnace stack and piped into the furnace through two openings called tuyeres, which is French for nozzles, by the way. Look that up. Located on either side of the furnace. So they have the complete package here. Oh, now you broke it. Well, that's our visit to Buckeye Furnace. It's been on my list of things to do for a very long time. Now we're going to move to another lesser known historical site, Hope Lake Furnace or Hope Furnace. Not too far from here, so stick around.
The destination is on your left.
No, I'm not going over there. I don't think I'll go in there. That's too mushy. Like the kids playing on the string. Well, we gave it the old college try. That's it for this time. I hope you enjoyed this video and will take time to view some of our other ones.